My guest this evening is someone known to, I would bet money, known to absolutely every one of you, Dr. Stephen Greer, not only involved with and the leader of, the founder of, and that may be incorrect, he may correct me when we bring him on, the Disclosure Project, but also he's involved in a lot of other really neat stuff that we'll get to talk with him about this evening. Dr. Greer, welcome to the Kevin Smith Show.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Was I correct or incorrect in saying you're the founder of the Disclosure Project? What title do you use?
Yes, that's correct. I'm the founder and director of the Disclosure Project, which had started as Project Starlight, if you look at the FOIA request that went into the White House during the Clinton years, when we began briefing the president and his first CIA director on this issue, trying to get them to support bringing out the truth to the people back in the 90s. And so, yes, it was founded way back in 1993, and I've been the founder and head of it since then.
Well, in 2001, you rocked a big boat with the Disclosure Project press conference, and you've continued rocking big boats in a big way with Disclosure Project. And the first thing I want to say is we all owe you a debt of thanks for your work with that.
Well, it's a labor of love by everyone involved, and it's not just myself, but it's the hundreds of military and intelligence and corporate witnesses that we have, that people can see some of that at disclosureproject.org, and all the dozens of volunteer staffers we have. You know, one thing people don't realize is that we have no paid staff. Everything we have done, as much work as it's been, has all been through volunteer efforts. So it's been an amazing effort of volunteerism.
I just want to ask this one question that's a little bit offbeat, maybe, before we go on, because I've seen you on television, I've heard you on radio interviews, and I have never heard this question asked. Probably it has been, but I haven't seen and heard all of your interviews.
All right.
But you're a medical doctor. You were an ER physician. What moved you from the ER to the forefront of the disclosure movement? How did that happen?
That's a very long story. Well, actually, this is the subject of my new book called Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge, which people can get at disclosureproject.org. And that book is Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge, just as the title says, is what I've discovered, the hidden truth on these issues, and the forbidden knowledge and sciences that we have discovered on the way. But my interest began, and I describe this in the book, when I was a child. And my uncle, who was the senior project engineer at Grumman Aerospace, who designed the lunar module that took the first man to the moon, Neil Armstrong to the moon, that was my uncle, my mom's oldest brother, who was the senior project aerospace engineer for that whole effort. And so I had a real interest in space as a little boy. I was only, when he started on that, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And so, for me, it was just fascinating. And around that same time, I was near my home in Charlotte, North Carolina, which had a missile plant at the time. And we know now that most of the nuclear missile facilities were being observed by our extraterrestrial friends because they were concerned that we were going to blow this planet apart and become eventually a threat to other civilizations in space. And I was this little boy with some friends in the neighborhood and saw one of these extraterrestrial vehicles. I never called them UFOs because they're not unidentified and they don't fly. But at any rate, I saw this object, and it was broad daylight, and it was a seamless, metallic, a dish-shaped object, not that far away, and it was there, and then it vanished. It didn't fly away like you see an airplane. I mean, it literally, you would say, dematerialized, but it vanished from physical view.
Just
so I knew what
out,
I had seen. And so, this is broad daylight, and of course my parents thought that, well, he's a kid, he didn't see anything. Well, I did. I knew what I had seen. So that ignited a lifelong interest in this subject, and then a lot of other things subsequently occurred. But say that I've had a very strong interest in this since childhood and have had multiple sightings over the years of these objects. And in 1990, decided to found the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSETI, which is the parent organization of the Disclosure Project. And our first mission was really to go out and to establish teams to make contact with these visitors for peaceful interplanetary contact, because I had concluded that they were in fact peaceful and that they were wanting to have some people figure out how to make open contact. So we started this process and ended up having amazing events that were mass witnessed in Florida and in Belgium and in England and in Mexico and all over. And word of this spread up through the chain of command of the classified projects in the U.S. government. And I was approached by some people, including the head of Army Intelligence, who said, basically, what the hell are you doing? Because this was actually making its way into the media with photographs and videotapes of these objects that we were vectoring in using a whole set of protocols that we train people to do this. And eventually, of course, a friend of the CIA director approached me at a presentation I had made in 93 and said, look, they're very interested in this, but the president, the new president at that time was Bill Clinton, had taken office in January of 93, and his CIA director are being denied access to this information. Well, I thought this was a complete bold-faced lie at the time, and it turned out he was telling me the truth, and Jim Woolsey, who was the CIA director at the time, was completely denied access to these super-secret projects, because basically these projects have become part of this permanent government bureaucracy that pretty much views our elected and appointed leaders as sort of temporary dwellers of the office and don't tell them anything. So, the public, often say, well, why is the government keeping this secret? I said, well, the government, quite frankly, couldn't find their rear end in a well-lighted room with both hands on this issue. Because I have done briefings personally for the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee and members of the Foreign Relations Committee and senior members of the House National Security Committee and the CIA director and on and on. And those people are genuinely clueless. I mean, they know less than you do about this issue. And it's really a tragedy, and it's a complete, this is what convinced me in the early 90s, that the management of the secrecy on this issue was completely rogue and illegal and was a serious threat to democracy and to our Constitution and to our freedoms. And so kind of what Eisenhower had warned us about when he said, beware the military-industrial complex, operative word, industrial complex, because they will get out of control and be a threat to our security and to our democratic institutions. And actually, when Eisenhower said that, I didn't know until many years later, because a man who had worked with Eisenhower, an attorney in North Carolina who's now retired, and he was working as a young man in the White House Signal Corps. He's one of our witnesses. You can see his testimony in our disclosure book, which you can get at disclosureproject.org. This man said that he had seen Eisenhower being denied information and control over these projects, even though he knew about it. I mean, he had seen the bodies, he had seen the recovered craft from some of these downings of these ET craft that we had committed back in the 40s and 50s, but he admitted he had no control over this thousand-headed Medusa that had been spawned after World War II that were controlling these projects. And that's why he said that on the last day of his leaving office in 1961, Eisenhower warned the public about it, and it was because he knew that during his tenure from 1953 to 61, those 8 years that he was the President of the United States as a five-star general and Republican, he had completely been outfoxed by these characters and had lost control of these projects, and it's been downhill ever since. I'll just tell you right now that it's a complete mess. And so, unfortunately, that's the state of the art of it. And when I learned that this was the case and that the real reason for the secrecy wasn't because people would freak out because there's intelligent life out in the universe besides on Earth, most people already accept that as a fact. Even the Vatican has come out and said as much. The issue was that they had figured out how these puppies ran around and what their energy and propulsion systems were, and if that was disclosed, it'd be goodbye oil, goodbye gas, goodbye coal, goodbye central utilities, goodbye internal combustion engines. Well, you're talking about, a huge revolution in